And in other news, combative words from the new Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang, telling reporters at his first ever press conference that the US needs to change its distorted attitude, his words, towards China or face conflict and confrontation. The Foreign Minister also defending Beijing's close ties with Russia. He said Washington had been engaging in suppression and containment of China rather than engaging in fair, rule-based competition. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
If the United States does not hit the brakes but continues to speed down the wrong path, no amount of guardrails can prevent derailing or a crash, and there will surely be conflict and confrontation.
And joining me in the studio is our international affairs commentator, Doug, the Chinese Foreign Minister, clearly not mincing his words.
No, it's very interesting here, Annette. You know, there has been a definite change, noticeably sharper, more virulent propaganda from the Chinese side vis-a-vis the United States ever since the U.S. shot down what it described as that high-altitude spy balloon last month. And the relationship had never been great up until then, but it really took a nosedive after that. And we've seen all of the clashes over Taiwan, over, lately U.S. Saying it had intelligence suggesting China was poised to supply arms to Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. What we're seeing, though, here is really not just a heightening of the rhetoric, but a singling out for criticism of the United States by name. We heard Xi Jinping talk about the United States encircling, oppressing China, trying to contain China. And now what we have is the foreign minister sort of doubling down on that message that the U.S. essentially, as China sees it, is a bad player on the international stage. And a more confident, more assertive China is now willing to name names, name the United States, and stand up to the United States on a number of fronts. It's interesting because these remarks come, just sort of on the day when a new study shows that China is actually leading the U.S. In all but a very few technological sectors. And technology has been a big sort of battleground, if you will, between U.S. and China. So it's been a fierce competition, which China says the U.S. is sort of purposely sharpening into an outright confrontation, something, with ill will. China says it doesn't want confrontation. Now, the foreign minister here obviously is using, very harsh rhetoric, harsh language. That said, it's probably a step too far to say that China's ready to outright alienate the U.S. It doesn't want a total rupture in relations. At this point in time, China still relies heavily on the United States, so it doesn't want to completely turn its back on it. But you can see right now that China's saying, we are not afraid to stand up to the U.S. We will call a spade a spade. We will call it out when we think that the U.S. is being a bad player on the world stage.
And then there are his comments about his country's relationship with Russia, keeping in mind at the beginning of the war in Ukraine, China very much played the neutral stance, but now it looks like it's sort of casting its support behind Moscow.
Well, remember that meeting, right, between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin where they spoke of the unlimited friendship. Now, look, we have to, I think, distinguish here, Annette, between what China officially says and what China probably privately thinks. I would say that China is a little bit appalled at the Russian invasion of Ukraine, even if it obviously in its official diplomacy doesn't say that outright. China, we know, is studiously neutral. Non-interference is its official policy to an extreme, if you will. China was apparently never consulted by Vladimir Putin prior to the invasion, and now China's left to sort of pick up the pieces. Given a choice between a hegemonic U.S., as it sees it, and next-door neighbor Russia, China's chosen for now to use Russia for its own interests. It doesn't love Russia, but it sees Russia right now as useful for its own national interests. Russia's a pipsqueak player on the world stage compared to China. The U.S. is the one that China really cares about, but it will use Russia for its interests right now in its showdown with the United States. The situation right now with regards to Ukraine is, yes, basically China's holding up its relationship with Russia, saying Russia is a model for strength and stability in international relations between powers, whereas the U.S. is nothing but a source of tensions and conflicts. It may say that, but privately on the side, Xi Jinping has no love lost for Vladimir Putin. Putin is useful right now to Xi Jinping. Putin might not have nice words to say about Joe Biden, but Xi Jinping for now knows that he needs Joe Biden at least partially on his side. So he's playing a very delicate juggling act right now. But Russia right now is in China's favor, at least explicitly in diplomatic speak, when it comes to news conferences like this.
Douglas